Hey folks, doing these belt videos, I'm going to, the first belt we're going to do, I'm going to try a little different tip design, and in order to facilitate that, I want to go ahead and make a template for it because I liked it. I did just a really quickie thing that I used in the video, but I am going to go ahead and show you how to make a good template that you can hang it onto and use it for a long time to come. So I'm going to put you down. I'm going to use a camera up above here. Hopefully this works out okay. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments below and I won't do it anymore. But I'm going to use both this camera, but I'll probably use the footage from this one. Hopefully it'll give you a better view of what I'm doing. That's my hope. We're going to get on with it. I'm going to show you how I did it, how I came up with this, and how I implemented it. The first thing I want to have happen here is I want an 1.5 inch wide strip. I want it the same width as the belt that I'm making. Just makes it a little easier to work with. So this is a strap cutter, plain and simple. Nothing fancy. I want to say I bought this at Tandy, but it doesn't say craft tool on it. So maybe I didn't get it at Tandy. Don't quite remember. But anyway, it's got some graduations on the side here. I'm going to set it for 1.5 inches. They're reasonably accurate. They're not perfect. So I'm going to set it for 1.5 inches. The other thing you want to do is the width here. You don't want that too much wider than your material. I'm just going to kind of set my leather in there. I keep mine kind of loose, so I just got to squeeze it together a little. And then when I tighten this end down, it tightens that down pretty good. So I've got it set for 1.5 inches. And if you don't have one of these, I would highly recommend it if you're going to be doing a lot of belts or straps of any kind. It's really nice to have a way to cut those straps and have them somewhat accurate and straight. I'm not an expert with this tool by any means, but I can get it to work most of the time. So I wonder, I think I can get 2 out of here so I can do both ends from this. I want to do one for the buckle end and one for the other end with all the holes. That worked out. I'm glad I could get it out of there. This is just a scrap too that I had laying around from probably from doing a holster or something. Done with that. You want to figure out how far you want to go, how you want to do this. I'm going to go ahead and get a nice square edge done on the end here. So I'm just going to use a square. Imagine that, getting a square end with a square. Okay, maybe not. At least not that square. It's not cooperative. Oh, cutting instrument. So what I decided on was I'm going to come down about the width of the stitching chisels that I usually use, and then I'm just going to knock off a corner. I'm going to do it at a 45-degree angle. And then I'll go from there. I want to get the very tip done, and then I'll measure back 3 1/4 inches to my first hole, and then my holes will be every inch. This is a little longer. We'll use a little longer one for the holes. This one we'll do with the others. The other, oh yeah, for the billet end. The buckle end. Whatever you want to call it. I don't care. The end that you put the buckle on. So, like I said too, you can just buy templates for this. Springfield's got them. Weaver's got them. I have a set from Maker's Leather Supply. They all work good. So it's one of those. I think the one at Springfield accommodates different sizes. So the first thing I want to do though is I want to make sure my wing dividers are set to 1/8 of an inch. It is generally the stitch line that I like. So let's see if I basically just move that hole in. This way you'll be able to see those a little better too. Just make a mark there so I know where I got to go to. That is going to work out perfect. So I'm just a tad over 1/8 here. I'm over 1/8 by 1/16. Yep. So I'm not even quite 3/16 of an inch. So if I can now use these holes to make some reference marks. And I can line up my ruler on those marks. couldn't see them. But now I've got some reference marks so that I can see. I'm going to just line my ruler up on them. Cut that off. So that's basically what the tip is going to look like. There's enough room for 4 stitch holes here. There will be 5 down this way, and it comes pretty close right here to having a hole in the corner there. Let's see. I'll make that so you can see it. We're pretty close. You could drop a hole right in the corner and be okay. So from here, I want to go right from the very tip. I like mine 3/4 of an inch in for my first hole. Now you can mark on leather with a pencil. This doesn't matter. This is a template anyway. So we're going to be using this just for that. So there's my, you know what, I'm just going to do this with a pen so you guys can see it. Do it with a Sharpie. We'll just put a dot there. So here's my 3 1/4. And I'm just going to slide up to the 3. I like 6 holes. I've seen people use 7, 9. A lot of them will use an odd number. That's fine. I like 6. Makes me feel a little more even keeled. Oh, that's a bad joke. So I'm just going to mark every inch. So there's 1 at 4, 1 at 5, 1 at 6, 7, and 8. That's really all there is to it. Except for, you know, we kind of got to punch those holes. And that is my funky spot here is right about here. So I'm going to have to cut it off right here. Which I was hoping to be able to do that a little farther away, but let's just get that taken care of now. Do better when you cut your strap. I should have just used a ruler. Now I need to make a mark down the center. Probably the easiest way to do that is I'm going to start by setting my wing divider to 3/4 of an inch. And you can do it on the back, you can do it on the front. If I just kind of run like this, and I do make a mark from each side. So if I go this way, and then this way, my mark in the middle here should be exactly right on top of each other. If it's not, just adjust until you are on top of it. So I can draw one on the front here. That's probably a little easier to see there. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to see in this camera up above. But I'm just going to go ahead now and I'm going to draw a little line right over each of my holes that I marked, so I know where the center is. Now, in the video on this belt, this first belt, I used a round hole as opposed to the oblong hole. And I really liked that, and it laid really nice because I used a bigger hole. With a double layer belt like this, you can use a bigger hole and get away with it. So, that's what I think I'm going to do. I don't remember exactly. Did I use a 1/4 inch? I don't remember. Oh gosh, I think I did. I think I just might have used I think that's a 1/4 inch. Yeah, I think I just might have used a 1/4 inch. So a little trick I like to do is I know exactly where my center is because that's what my black dots are. And I know where the center, because I made a line down there. You can roughly guesstimate where your punch is going to go. And if you just you can make an impression. And it's usually just by putting a little pressure down, giving it a turn, you'll leave enough of an impression to know where you're at. And to know if you're going to be able to be in the center. That one is just right. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that. There should be enough of an impression where you can slip your punch right back into your mark. So you can see it's kind of a big hole. But on the belt that I made, it worked out really nice. I really liked it. So then you can just do the same thing with your next holes. Now that one's a little bit off, so I'm just going to shift a little bit. And if your template's right, then all you need to do is stick your punch back in the hole, smack it a couple of times, and you got your holes. So there's one end. When I measure my belt, I measure between these holes, and that gives me I add 1.5 inches to the waist size when I measure it, and it gives me a pretty spot on belt size. So it works pretty well. Let's get on to the other end when we get set. Alright, just to go over doing this part again, I'm going to, instead of just tracing that on there, which would be the easy way to do it, I'm going to go ahead and just do it again. It didn't take that long, wasn't that tough. So I'm going to go ahead with my wing dividers, reset to that, what was it, 3/16? Let me double check. Almost 3/16. You're about 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to go and just run a line here, down this way. I'm going to go ahead and just run a line here too, because I'm going to need that eventually. I know that I want to be able to go that way. I am going to want 4 this way. And then I want that 45 degrees here. I don't remember where I saw this tip. It's probably on Instagram or some such a thing. I don't go on Instagram anymore. All that political crap on there kind of turned me off to it, so I just quit going on there. Same reason I don't go on Facebook. There's that one. There we go. So there's all my holes. And I'll just do the same thing again with my wing dividers. So this time I'll make my marks a little heavier to see them in the first place. So there's those marks that I'm going to line up on. Now this end won't get stitched at all. I just put those stitch marks in there so that I know where everything is coming to. Oh, I should have been over just a hair more. That's better. Much better. Now, on my blanks, I like to leave room over here on the very end. I put my maker's mark and I have a Made in USA stamp that I put in. So hopefully it'll show up right here. I do that on all my belts. That was the one that I did. So I like to leave, I don't know how much room that is, from the center of a hole 2.5 inches. So let's go ahead and measure. Grab our marker out again. Throw it on the floor because you got to throw it on the floor first. Then we'll put a mark 2.5 inches between these two holes. I usually leave a little over an inch, probably 1.1/8, center to center. 1.16. Not a lot, but a little over an inch because I'm putting in the belt keeper is going to go in there. So we'll go a little over that. From the center of this hole to the edge of the slot here, I believe I got 3/4 of an inch. Yep. And that's the end of the slot that's at 3/4. And that slot is 1.25 inches long. And then there'll be another 3/4 of an inch. And then another 1.16 inches or so. That's what that was, right? Yeah, 1.16 inches. So all my holes are marked. There'll be a hole. This will be a slot, and then 2 more holes. So the belt keeper goes between these 2 holes. And that's just suppose if I lined everything up right, you should see all those marks right through there. But you won't be able to, because that's the way the camera works. So I should be able to go back to my 3/4 of an inch here. And I should be able to go this way, go that way. So I'm a little off here. A little farther apart. So I don't know if that'll show up, but the first time I was a little farther off, get a little closer, and now I'm on. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll do the same thing I did before. I'll make a mark here where my holes are going to be. I'm just going to make a long mark for where my slot's going to be, and then my other 2 holes. For the slot, I'm going to show you a different way to do it. The slot, these holes don't want to be as big as this 1/4 inch punch, so I'm going to go down 1, and I think 5/16, 3/16. Yep. So that's what I'm going to use here. Just going to kind of wing it a little, not much. I want to be as close as I can get. For the slot, I'm going to go ahead and show you this way to do it with the single punch, because this first belt is meant to be done as simply as possible without having to spend a whole lot of money on tools. You don't need to get fancy when you're making a belt, and that's kind of what I wanted to show you. You don't need these fancy strap end cutters. You don't need the fancy slot punches. You know, a slot punch, an 1 1/4 slot punch is like 65 bucks. That strap end punch is another 65, 70 bucks for like a CS Osborne or something. I don't remember what I paid for mine. Sometimes I just get them and call it done, and just the way it goes. So if I punch a hole on either end, and I've shown on my channel before how you just cut a hole on either end, take your ruler and you match the 2 up. Having a good mallet is paramount when you're doing belts. You need a good striking implement. This is not the greatest. This is a craft tool. I like this. I pretty much use this just for hitting stuff. Well, you know, not for tooling leather. I have used it for tooling leather, and I really like this one. It's lighter. I have this Barry King maul. This is a 24-ounce maul. It's really nice. I don't hardly do any work with this if I'm tooling leather. I got to hit a little harder with this one, but it still works okay. So that part's done. To join that, you just want to lay your ruler down. I like to just stick my knife in the hole and I slide my ruler up to my knife. And that way it should be leaving just enough room. Now you start at one end and you don't quite cut all the way to the other end. And if you don't get this perfect, it's okay. You can clean it up. But you don't want to overcut it if you can avoid it. That time I went just a little too far. So, like I said, it's not perfect, but it's pretty easy to clean up. And you can get the slot punches, what have you, but you don't really need them. So, now I just, my dog is retarded, I think. She's kind of crazy. She just wants to go in. She thinks everybody's eating dinner without her. Because it's dinner time. I'm sure Mama just sent me a text saying, "Get your butt in here for dinner, I'm hungry." So there we go. Make your own templates. You can do this for so many different things. And it's really not that hard. So give it a shot. That being said, check out the links in the description below. And you all stay safe. God bless. I'll catch you in the next video.